It's a brand new beginning. Welcome to another episode of Business Beyond, where we uncover the journeys, challenges, and triumphs of today's most inspiring entrepreneurs. I'm Mohit. Alongside me is Akshara, and we'll be your hosts for today's episode.
So before we dive in, a quick shout out to the Commerce Association of Shaheed Bhagat Singh College, which has been at the forefront of fostering business acumen and providing students with the platform to engage with various industries professionals.
And speaking of industry leaders, we have an exceptional guest with us today, Mr. Sudeep Gupta, the co-founder and CEO of Store My Goods. Thank you so much for joining us, sir.
Store My Goods is a tech-enabled self-storage solution that offers individuals and businessmen a hassle-free way to store their belongings securely, from household storage during relocation to inventory management for businesses. Store My Good is transforming how India perceives and uses storage spaces.
So, before we jump into the serious stuff, let's start with a fun one. Since Store My Goods deals with people's personal belongings, have you ever come across a super bizarre or unexpected item that someone stored, like maybe a vintage car or something totally out of the blue?
Yeah, I think, yes, it was almost when the time of COVID and the COVID was finishing, and then we got a customer where we got a request from a customer, they want to store their Aston Martin. And it was a very expensive car, obviously, and we were not sure whether we should take that order or not. So we kind of very politely said, we would not be storing that. So we did not had that, we did not store. But one of the things that we found that a customer stored, which they're not supposed to store, is a bottle of liquor, which one of our customers did store. And essentially, they are supposed to declare everything. And it was not a part of the storage plan they opted for. And when we returned the goods, they said that we had stored this bottle of liquor, and it was not even mentioned. So I think that is something that that has happened with us at one of the time. Yeah.
So that is like something businesses need to take care of because like people are quite clever these days.
Yes.
So let's rewind a little bit. Store My Goods is such a unique and practical concept, especially in a country like India, where space is a luxury. So what inspired you to start this venture? Was it a personal experience or did you spot a market gap that pushed you towards this idea?
Right. I think it's interesting. I was actually working with a unicorn in India, leading their business as a director for Europe and Canada markets. It was Oyo, and at that time, COVID happened, right? You know how things were in COVID, and people started moving from the metropolitan cities to their hometowns, right? Because there was no visibility that as and when the companies would open and they will ask to come to the office. And the sad thing which happened was everybody who moved to their hometown, they thought they will come in next 2 weeks or 3 weeks, but they were paying rentals for the rented apartments that they had or houses that they had. And unfortunately, for a lot of people lost their job in the process of 1 to 2 years of COVID. So we thought, why not to create a storage solution where we can help the students or the working professionals or anybody who wanted to store their goods at 1/10 of the cost. So so our fundamental or our value proposition was very simple. If you're paying rental for 50,000 rupees of your house or 1 lakh rupees for your house, you could actually store at 1/10 of the cost. So that is where we got in. We did a survey among a lot of people and then realized that there is a need of that. And we had taken one location on rent, and that's how we started storing, making sure the entire journey of the picking, packing, and then cataloging all the goods, and then started storing it. So that's how we started from one of the locations in Delhi NCR. And over the period, we expanded this. So this is not something that was more like opportunity for that time. I knew that this is a $60 billion industry in the US market and other parts of the world. And eventually people would get to know about storage as a concept because Now, if working population already knows about storage during the time of COVID, so this industry should have taken maybe 3 years, 5 years time more to accelerate it. People got to know about it, and now you see a lot of people are actually using it as an extension of their home, as a while they're moving their houses, or they're renovating their houses, or even they're changing their jobs. So it's a big number in the US. 20% of the people actually uses this service as extension of their home. So that was the thesis where we started, and then got into full-time opportunity at the right time. So we'll discuss about it. Yes.
One thing I would like to know is, now that you've achieved so much and are still achieving, how do you define success? Like, has the definition evolved over time now that you have been in the business, or is it still the same? Is it still that one goal that you're chasing, or you've chased it and now you're chasing another goal?
So I think a very wrong statement for any founder or any entrepreneur would be they have achieved anything. I mean, that definition has no boundaries. Like, you when you start a business, you feel that a good number of revenue would be. I will reach to this revenue. I'll be happy as an entrepreneur. Then you talk about a profitability, something which is very important, right? And then maybe next year, what do you do, right? So I think it's about you don't chase that this is you want to make it this much crore of company. You focus on what you're supposed to do, and eventually you'll be able to crack the market in a manner which you will feel after some time you're doing it better than what other people would be doing in the market. So I think complacency set is something which should not be there for any entrepreneur to feel that you've already achieved or have the success, and I think that comes with doing maybe second or third kind of an entrepreneurial journey. So it's my second entrepreneurial journey. So it's something, the pleasure is more like solving a problem for the customers and making it seamless with less escalations, and people pay for the convenience. So I think I would not want to define that success or achievement in terms of a top line that we would achieve. It's more about how much we can contribute and we can expand over the years and increase our market share.
So, sir, I have a follow-up to that. That as you mentioned that this was your second entrepreneurial journey. So, we could throw some light on your first entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah.
And what were your learnings from there?
Yeah. So I think I happened to be like a college student like you long time back, and then I did my bachelor's, I did my MBA from a French business school, ESCP. Lived in Europe for about a couple of years, 3 years, and then came back to India. I saw an opportunity in Europe. You had those organized convenience cafes on the undergrounds of London or Paris metro. And when I was in India at that point of time, Delhi metro was picking up, and there was no good convenience retail on the go. So I happened to pitch it to the managing director, the Metro Man of India, Sridharan sir, about my idea that this is what I want to do and I want to move back to India. And he asked me, would you be able to open the first store in next 15 days? There's one metro station which is opening up. So that's when my journey started way back in 2010 odd, and opened about 100 odd stores, ran that business for about 6 years, a profitable business, and then kind of exited from the business. So that was my first journey of starting entrepreneurship at a very early age of 21 years. And then post that exit, which we did, I moved back to the professional world, worked with bigger companies or startups to understand how the startup ecosystem works. So joined Cars24 to lead their, real estate business or alliances or franchising business, work with the founders who are also our investors in this company. And also I moved to Oyo for some time, worked with Ritesh and team to lead their Europe, US and Canada market. So I think that overall journey of my own entrepreneurship, along with understanding how the founder mentality works, the leadership works, is helping somehow in building the business that I am into, So I think it obviously helps when you have done or seen first-hand experience of working style of different entrepreneurs, the way they think, and the way they execute things, right? So I think that definitely helped me, my own business or my working with any other startup that I've worked with.
So I would like to ask, as you said, you worked with Cars24 and Voyo at their high business growth stage. So you have seen it firsthand what it takes to build a business. So were there few strategies or ways did you take from those business into your own startup when you started your journey?
Yeah, I think with any startup, a good founder that you work with, data is one of the most important part of the business, right? I mean, if you define the metrics right, which all metrics you need to track, what will give you growth, what will give you more gross margins, and what will help you to retain your team and other, so I think those things are very critical for as a founder to understand what are the great levers for you to drive a substantial business. So definitely that, and then there's certain skill sets which is like managing a team, how are you more structured, and few other things that you learn, which obviously you can't define, but it's in back of your mind, in your subconscious mind, that this is something that I did or maybe somebody else did in that startup in a manner, so you take those learnings and try to implement in your business, right?
Sir, so self-storage is still a relatively nascent industry in India, unlike in the West where it's fairly common. So what were the biggest hurdles you faced while introducing this concept to the Indian market? Also, were there any cultural or behavioral challenges when convincing people to trust external storage providers for their belongings?
Yeah, I think definitely. I mean, if you would have asked me this question maybe pre-COVID, it would have been a little different answer. But what actually happened during COVID, people were actually struggling with the goods that they had in their apartments, and everybody was on Google and they were finding the ways to store the goods, and we eventually had started at that point. So as I said, we were lucky to start at the right time when people actually got to know about storage as a solution does exist. Otherwise, it would have taken a little longer to educate the people. For us to build trust in the customer's mindset is very important, because you could see a few companies who are just doing aggregation or other things, but eventually customer wants to know how their goods stored. So what we do with the customers, we have where we go to your house, we pick, pack, we catalog all the goods, we transport it and we store it. So that is one way. And the second way to do is, as a customer could bring in goods in your own vehicle or your own car, and you could do a self-drop as well. So that's a feature which a customer is allowed to visit our facilities across the day, anytime, just to have a comfort, or they want to store, like a lot of students we have from Delhi University and other universities across India, because we are currently present in Delhi NCR, Mumbai, Bangalore, Hyderabad and Pune. So let's say now the summer break would come, and they would want to not pay the rentals for the houses or the rooms they have taken. They would want to store it for maybe a couple of months. So in case you're paying 5,000, 7,000, 10,000 rupees of rental, you could just store in 500 rupees as well, right? So trust is something which comes, obviously, Shark Tank played a very important role in building that tag of trust. Apart from that, we share complete transparency with the customers while you store the goods, the pictures and other things are shared real time on your product and the accounts portal that you have with us, right? So
that's great, sir. And apart from that, one thing that fascinates us about your business is its tech-driven operations. So you've introduced features like inventory management and seamless pickup, drop-off services. So how did you integrate technology into the core of your operations, and how has it enhanced the customer experience over the years?
Yeah, see, I think when you're starting a business, you could start and do a business up to a certain level, right? But as you scale, you would realize you can't exponentially increase the manpower on the back end to drive the business, right? So you need to automate certain or the most of the things that you can. To automate that entire journey of a customer, starting from customer onboarding till the exit, it's not only customer journey. There are certain parallel things which goes into the process, managing the vendor that we, packers and movers that we work with, the bidding process for them, or managing the warehousing products, or warehouse team would have a different product to manage. So finance team would have different products, because when a customer comes, till the time the goods are delivered back to them, there are a lot of other things which happens, and you can't do manual interventions everywhere. So the data should flow in a manner where everybody who is supposed to get an acknowledge or something which is being done manually, you need to automate that and make it a seamless, because the customer does not know what is happening at your back end, right? Like, you think that Amazon delivery is very simple, like somebody will place an order and will come to your next day, but there is an entire ecosystem which has been built to make sure it comes on time in the stipulated time that has been given to you, right? So I think that is what requires in any logistics, warehousing, or a consumer tech business. So we are in a consumer tech business, so it has to be solved through technology only to scale.
That's great, sir. And with B2B and B2C customers on board, Store My Goods is catering to a diverse audience. And how did you differentiate your services for individuals versus the businesses?
Right. So I think fundamentally it was very clear. I mean, we did some study across the globe, understanding what is the percentage that B2C business contributes versus a B2B business contributes. So we saw a trend that about 70% of the customers who would typically store, whether it's US, UK, or Middle East or Southeast Asian market. So 70% typically contributes from B2C as a category, and B2B typically plays about 25 to 30%. And we have been seeing that trend, where we have a similar number of a percentage of the customers storing in B2C versus B2B. And I think the customer acquisition strategy for both of them has been fairly different. While a B2C customer would come in and do everything online in terms of the booking a storage unit and everything, while a B2B takes a little bit more time in terms of the conversion, right? So the life cycle of converting a B2B customer could be somewhere between 2 weeks to 4 weeks to 6 weeks, because there are different stakeholders who are involved into a B2B process. It's not, sometimes if it is an entrepreneur, they'll take a decision. But if it is a corporate storage, then it would go to their procurement head or to other multiple levels. So it takes time. So I think you only need to do is trust the process and just be confident of what you're doing.
So when we talk about storage, seasonal demands often spike, like during house relocations or business inventory surges. Have you noticed any interesting storage trends or seasonal patterns in the Indian market?
I think, we have seen definitely a spike which comes into the duration that we are sitting right now. It's financial year end, and the reason why a lot of movement happens of relocation or storage as a business, because a lot of companies they think about moving employees from one city to another city, right? When they move it, then they have to take a storage service or a relocation service. A lot of working professionals do change their jobs as well, then they need again storage or relocation. And so I think it's financial year end or beginning of new financial year is one of the important months for us, where we see a lot of spike. Apart from that, there's seasonal, during the time of, for a business category, you would see some spike in during Diwali time or maybe during Christmas time, in case it's a business category as well,
So, sir, during a Shark Tank pitch, you mentioned focusing on both B2C and B2C segments. So, which of the two has been more challenging in terms of customer acquisition, and how have you adopted your strategies accordingly?
See, I think we have been focusing on inbound digital strategies primarily, and I think we have been fairly okay to drive it. But if you look at B2B is more like relationship building as well, and B2B is more like the customers that you will onboard maybe in the 1 year or second year. In case they grow, your business will eventually grow with So I think the focus with B2B should be doing a good relationship with the clients that you're working with, and for B2C, in case they're happy, they will again change a job after 3 years, or they will again relocate to some other city. So they will know that they've used our services. So we try to maintain our NPS in a manner where customers are happy about what services they've got.
And sir, speaking of growth, Store My Goods has already raised significant funding. So, with the growing demand for storage solutions in India, are you actively seeking more funding for future expansion, or are you focusing on becoming more profitable before considering another round of investment?
Yeah, so I think our current focus is, we are growing and expanding. So we're currently, we started from Delhi NCR. Now we are in Delhi NCR, obviously, Delhi, Noida, Gurgaon, Mumbai, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Pune. So we are aggressively increasing our capacities in these cities. We might launch a couple of new geographies as well in India. In this coming financial year, we are planning to expand more within these markets, and also possibly launch into one of the outside India markets as well. So that's our plan as of now.
So, sir, I want to ask, in Shark Tank, you managed to bag an investment and also gain a lot of recognition. So, what do you think today's startup are doing wrong in terms of getting the investment or trying to get the investment? Like, what was that one thing that you would say you did right on Shark Tank to get the investment? Like, what was that one point?
So I think Shark Tank is a good platform. I think the most important thing is, if you are confident about your business, and if you think that you want to spend, let's say, next 5 years, 10 years, or maybe more into the business, you should not be very, you should be a little particular in terms of choosing the right investment, right? Because end of the day, because if you're spending next decade into running that business, and you've already diluted way too much in terms of your equity, then essentially it might not be able to get to a Series A or a Series B round, because so the initial before starting or pitching any idea, I think a product market fit, or at least you should have some traction in terms of revenue, so that you're able to get a better valuation is what I suggest to the founders, in case they're willing to spend next 10 years into the business. If they're doing it for just to try it out for a 1 to 2 years, then it's okay.
So, sir, when you pitched on Shark Tank, you highlighted rapid expansion plans. And since then, what unexpected market trends or customer behaviors have influenced your scaling strategy over the years since COVID?
Yeah, so I think it has been, we have been growing by the virtue of God, and scaling strategies for us, has been keeps on changing, because there are a lot of things which you need to plug in sometimes at different scale of the business that you are. So I think it's up to you how you think, and sometimes you would want to acquire customers digitally. Sometimes you would want to do some B2B2C tie-ups, or you might want to do it through some other networks, depending on what you want to try. So I believe in A/B testing, and if something works well, go double down onto that and invest more money onto that, so that you're able to generate good business.
So, with the market rapidly growing, how do you prioritize between risk management and aggressive financial investment for your growth of the business? Do you prioritize taking care and being conscious about your investment, or if you think it's probable, then you invest? What is your priority?
Yeah, so I think the money that you spend on anything that you do, whether it's marketing or product or operations or building capacities, you have to think that you are spending your own money. So in case you have even raised the money, you should think that the money which you are spending is your own money, and this is money which is your last money. So just think about that. And I think where you think it's necessary, you should spend it, because end of the day you also need growth in the business. If you have to increase your top of the funnel, then you need to spend more, or you need to find out ways where you can generate more leads, right? And then only you will be able to convert them. So I think that should be the way to look at it. When you want to accelerate, you know when to accelerate, and when you want to stop, you should know how to put the brakes on your business. Yeah.
So, sir, talking about the finances of a business, the financial side of a business. So, self storage is an asset heavy business with a significant investment in infrastructure. So, how do you balance operational costs with profitability, especially when expanding to new locations?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting thing. So I think there are multiple ways to get into and launch GTM for a new city that you launch. But when we started with Delhi NCR market, it was difficult for us to open a Gurgaon market, right? And then it was even difficult for us to think about opening up in Mumbai or Bangalore, because you need to set up a different team, different warehouse. The cost increases exponentially, right? So we had always done a conservative play in this. I mean, we have played very small in terms of opening the locations, and then once we feel more confident about the business, we go more aggressive, right? So I think that strategy should always be there, not to be very aggressive in terms of expanding, in terms of opening the locations, and you are not having the occupancy levels of that sort. So I think occupancy level is very important in this business to track, and what is the kind of yield that you make from the capacities that you have, right? So that this is important metric to track in a self-storage business.
So, sir, as you mentioned, you're managing teams across India and US also and Europe. So, what is that one leadership decision or leadership experience that you think was very enlightening for you to know more about leadership that you would like to share with us?
Yeah, I think when I was working with the company where I was managing teams in Europe, US, and India, so I think, first of all, when you are in India, if you are in Delhi or versus Bangalore or Hyderabad, the culture is very different, right? So you need to understand how people are, what's the cultural behavior, how do they feel about, so you need to understand certain elements. And when I was in Europe or US or Canada for that matter, if you're working with French national or German or Italian or Russian or Chinese, you need to understand the mindset, how they work. Because when we launched in Europe, it was like 6 days or after 5, people would typically not work, right? So you have to give them certain space, so they're able to think about. Otherwise, it becomes difficult. And when we launched, our hotel in Italy or in Milan for that matter, or in Berlin. These hotels were being operated by the budget hotels we operated by the Russian mafia or the Chinese mafia, right? And it was very difficult for somebody like Indian to go and pitch there. So what I did is I studied in ESCP, and we had campuses across different countries like Germany, Spain, Italy, France, and I hired interns from there who were able to speak Mandarin for that matter, or speak German or Italian, and then gave them a pitch that this is what we want to pitch to a budget hotel. And then we started getting meetings with the owners of the hotels and started cracking, onboarding them onto our platform. So I think it is, you need to think from a different lens what we are doing wrong and how we can make it better. And if you are able to understand the culture, their values, I am sure you will be able to get a good entry into the market.
So, sir, scaling a startup often involves tough decisions. Was there ever a point where you had to make a bold or a risky move in your business, whether it was expanding to a new city, pivoting your business model, or introducing a new service despite uncertainty? And how did it turn out?
No, I think, it's important. Sometimes you have to take certain calls, which could be, pivoting from the model that you're currently at, or adding a new vertical. So, we realized that, storage as a category is big. And we were anyway doing, the pickups and the drops for the customers that we were storing, right? So we realized we started getting a lot of queries from customers who wanted to move their goods from one city to another city, right? And they didn't want it storage. So we thought that this is something that our product and our capability is able to deliver. Why not to, add on it as a value-added services for them? So it's not because we wanted to pivot, it's because the customer wanted us to do it and we had all the capabilities to do it. So we added another vertical, which becomes our corporate relocation or, individual relocation as a vertical. So that becomes a part of it. And yes, so yeah, I think we are still to see any more pivots as of now, but I think the focus is the B2C and the B2B as of now.
So, sir, I wanted to ask, how do you fight complacency? Like, if you've achieved something, how do you fight in your head to, okay, get up next morning and go again to decide a new goal? Because is there some rituals that you do to stay constantly motivated? Because I personally, if I've achieved something, will stop. Will be like, okay, I've achieved this. Now let's just not
Yeah.
again fight.
So when you look at our achievement, it's driven by our annual operating plan. For example, the next AOP that we make, we have bucketed the revenue that will come from different verticals. What will be the top line? What will be the bottom line? How much margins or gross margins we'll make? What will be the team strength? And essentially, a 12-month plan, you break it down to 4 quarters, and then the focus should be the first quarter, and then the first quarter should be further broken down into the first month, and the first month would be then broken down into 4 weeks, and then you do a daily tracking, right? If you have to do a run rate of this much for achieving for a month per day, so then that is how you break it down, and that's what you need to do. I mean, you don't have to focus for the second year, you just focus on first year, then break it down, and then eventually work on a daily basis, right? Like, and further, if you can break it down hourly basis, it's good. So I think that's how I think we should work realistically.
And sir, talking about storage, seasonal demands often spike, like during house relocations or business inventory stages. So have you ever noticed any interesting storage trends or seasonal patterns in the Indian market?
Yeah, I think one very interesting pattern that is emerging in Indian market is divorce. So, I mean, obviously it's a big category in US, but in India we have seen a lot of couples which unfortunately undergo a divorce. They don't know what to do, and they get our storage and store it for certain durations. That is one of the use cases, which is a new and interesting category. Although we are not promoting that, but essentially we help them to store. And then obviously we see, extension of home as a big category as well, where people are living in a society and they have a 2 BHK or a 3 BHK, but unfortunately what the builders claim to be a super area versus a carpet area, what they get on a 40-50% loading is very less. So they need something to store. So we bundle in with the developers or with the customers to provide them a storage outside their home, which could become an extension of their home for a long run, right? Like, so because you could store it and you could retrieve as and when required. So that's again a big category which is emerging.
So one thing we've noticed, sir, that is Store My Goods really focuses heavily on customer convenience, like pickup, packaging, or on-demand delivery. So how do you ensure such a seamless customer experience? Is there, do you focus on in-house logistic or collaborate with a third-party service?
Yeah, so I think, we do both. We do in-house, we do collaborate. But more important is, even if you do any of that, everything should be data-driven. Like, I mean, if you see traditional packers and movers or anybody who is typically doing the service, they would come on a pink slip and then write down all the goods and things. So what is more important is to bring the subjectivity out of the complete transaction to make it more objective, is what we try to do through the apps that we have built on the fleet or on any other side of the business that we have, where we track everything, whether the vehicle reached on time, or whether the quality of the packaging is good, or whether it is delivered in a good condition in the warehouse. So all those checks and balances we try to keep, so that chances of error becomes less, right? So that is what you can do, right? So I think that's we are trying to build, and which will eventually help a good customer feedback.
And sir, since Store My Goods offers both short-term and long-term storage plans, what kind of pricing model have you found to be the most effective one? Do you use dynamic pricing based on demand or offer fixed rate plans?
Yeah, so I think we operate in different geographies. So pricing is a component which is driven by certain factors. It could be a weekly pricing, it could be a bi-monthly or a monthly pricing, or a yearly pricing, or a quarterly pricing. over and above that, there are certain factors which supply also drives for the pricing of the demand that we get in that city. And so I think we have a combination of both dynamic and static pricing.
So, sir, I want to ask, with AI and automation taking over the world, how do you see it affecting your business and specifically your industry, the service industry as well?
I think it is the need of the hour for all the entrepreneurs. I mean, even if you think you can't have AI on automation, you're thinking it wrong. So you need to think out ways where you can, because customers are used to it now, right? I mean, for example, if somebody wants to use our storage and they want to ask certain questions, you could do a small automation into the chat that they do. It's a very basic one, but while you are, if I am in a house, how you can build a product which could eventually tell what is to be stored on just how do you show your app to them, so on multiple things so I think once you are launching this in other geographies outside India as well, it will play a very important role to reduce the cost. So it's something which you need to think about right now, how you can implement it, and then eventually a lot of things can be data driven. So I think a lot of companies have started doing this into the warehousing business already, right? So,
Answer, as a successful entrepreneur, what is one piece of advice you would like to give to budding entrepreneurs who are diving into uncharted territories?
Yeah, I think when I ask this question to the entrepreneurs who want to do something, I mean, I would say that, a lot of entrepreneurs or a lot of students or people would think, they have this idea and they have and if they will share it with somebody, they will steal the idea, because you think that this idea is $1 million idea. But, when you go out of the bubble and share it with other people, you will have so much of learnings that it has been done by them or this. But what you need to learn, if they have done this idea, whether they have done it in a right manner or not. So it doesn't matter if the idea got failed with somebody else who did it, about 2 or 3 years back. How did you execute that idea is more important, right? So I think people think that if I have funding, then I'll be able to execute thing. If I have a good team, I'll be able to execute thing. I think idea, funding, or team, or a founder, the most important thing is execution, right? Like if you are not able to execute anything, it's just your thought process, right? So practical versus theoretical is very important, which I think is still a little bit of gap for the people who want to become an entrepreneur. And it's something not like, if you're giving it, just think about giving it for next few years and, at least 3 to 4 years of your journey so that you're able to realize whether you did right or wrong.
So, all right, sir, before we wrap up, let's do a quick rapid fire round.
Sure.
Just see the first thing that comes to your mind.
Sure.
So, tea or coffee?
Tea.
Job or businesses?
Business.
Profitability or growth?
Profitability.
Angel investors or Shark Tank?
Angel investors.
Storage in India or storage in Dubai?
Storage in India.
Tech-driven operations or customer-centric services?
I think
That's a tough one.
Customer-centric services through a tech-driven process.
Expansion or consolidation?
Expansion.
And that brings us to the end of this incredibly insightful episode of Business Beyond. So from introducing India to the concept of self-storage to creating a seamless, tech-driven solution, Mr. Sudeep Gupta has truly redefined the way we think about space.
A massive thank you, sir, for sharing this time, your journey, and valuable insights with us. I'm sure our listeners today are walking away with a wealth of knowledge and inspiration to maybe start up their own business once they want to.
To all our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode and found value in this conversation, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, share it with your friends, and leave us a review. Your support will help us bring many more inspiring stories and leaders to the table.
So until next time, let's keep exploring, keep innovating, and keep thinking. See you in the next episode.
Thank you.